Marco Massabo is from UNDRR, and he will introduce, I think, the first pillar of early warning access forum. So with that, Marco, go ahead.
Thanks very much, Albert. It's a great pleasure to be here with this rich participation, emerging also from our network of Center of Excellence for DRR that we have very well represented in this platform. I have a formal complaint to make. I want to request to the secretary to change the photo of Roberto on the steering committee because he's from his PhD. I know Roberto for many years. I know that photo was taken during his PhD, and it's far from that. But it's really great pleasure, to be here. And I'm going to talk a bit on the risk knowledge for early warning and a bit more. Trying to catch what we are doing in the office, even if I'm new on the office. I joined 1 month ago, really enjoying Kenya. But I want to put also some points that we can discuss during the course of this event. Let me start with this. And so this is a mango tree. And why I'm putting this one as a mango tree, because there is a story. And in 2019, there's been a big cyclone Idai. And people survived to the flood caused by the cyclone Idai, climbing on several mango trees that were there. Even was one lady that stayed there for 3 days and delivered a baby on the mango tree. So I think for me, this story is telling me a lot. Whenever we do risk knowledge, whenever we do forecasting system, we always need to keep in mind that the ultimate reason that we want all these things to come is that we can do better in saving life with the mango tree. We can do better in using those risk information in early warning and make sure that people are not affected by the flood, or at least with reducing number of people affected by floods, and we try to protect our people. So that's one is a story that for me was very much highlighting the reason why we're doing that. And that I think is important. It was already mentioned several times before, that always we need to have clearly where we are going, what is the ultimate reason of our research and our scientific application. Just a few words on early warning for all. This is a picture I think many of you have seen. What I want here to stress is on the reporting for multi-hazard warning system, the graph on the right. For the pillar one, unfortunately, we are the last in the reporting. So the perception is really the risk knowledge is something behind. And I think this one is happening a lot because risk information they are generated by the academia, by the institution, are not coming to the right place and the right time. And this one is a big motivation, I think, for all of us to try to make the case so how we can improve both the generation of risk knowledge, but also the application and use of the risk knowledge. Not saying that all the other pillars are at a satisfactory level, but we need to definitely work on that direction. The 4 pillar leads has been mentioned sometimes when we worked before also with our colleague here in UNDRR, but also in Chima. Sometimes we were thinking, is this really the way that we want to go? Is this a pillarization approach that's really the way that we want to go? But in any case, let's leave it for now. And for the pillar one, what UNDRR is doing is developing a toolkit for risk knowledge generation that is specific, trying to support the compilation of risk information for early warning system. We have a very long-standing activity in disaster loss data collection. This one has been one corporate activity for many years now. disasters inventory data and so on. I think it's one of the biggest initiative on disaster loss data collection. I think here we didn't explore to the right extent the use of robot sensors and all the engagement for the space agency. We had, I think, in the room to at least a couple of representatives from African Space Agency. I was in the network of excellence before. So this one is the pillar approach for early warning for all. But let me stress one important thing that I think, even in last months, I was already very passionate on that before. But I think this is really 1 month that I'm living with UNDRR is even more important, is on the governance. I think this one was put it behind on the spot before. There are much more point and linkage between the different pillars that we thought at the beginning. And that's just really try to see how those 4 pillars is coming together. How we are going to use risk information for impact-based forecast. We cannot really separate these two. The same is how we are going to use risk information for planning of early action. This one is really not be taken as a sole pillar, as a silos. So the governance point is one of the really important points to address under the early warning for all. How these 4 pillars are coming together. And also the way that pillar 1 is seeing, it's really more as a cross-cutting rather than a single pillar. In terms of risk knowledge at the ROA, at the Regional Office for Africa, well, I tried to think on what are the 4 important points that have been used historically in the office and also in the activity that has been done before. One is technical and scientific sounding. So that's definitely an important point, but this is nothing new from what we are seeing in this platform, but really to bring the scientific community to have a voice on the risk information. And the UNDRR has been investing a lot in partnership with scientific academia, both from UNDRR, both with Chima Foundation and risk profiling, now with the Network of Center of Excellence. I mean, this one has been one of the core activity of UNDRR at the global level, but most important at the regional level. Integrated and exchange. So we have been I think we have seen many times that this morning as well, we were discussing, I think, with some of the colleagues during the interesting ice breaking, how sometimes these research outputs stay on the shelf. So I think this one is one of the priorities. I will show you how in the office and through it also the collaboration with the African Union and Chima Foundation, we're trying to bring those scientific components, integrated and then exchange among the different institutions that make use of it. Institutionalized and co-generated this one is again very important. We are in the process to engage more and more with the World Meteorological Organization, with ETU, with IFRC, to really have those information that are institutionalized. There are procedures with the different organizations to really make sure that those information comes at the right time and with the right quality. This one goes at the continental level, but also the national level, really to foster the collaboration with the Disaster Risk Management Authority, Meteorological Service, Hydrological Service. And this one is something that is not happening yet, especially in Africa. What we are seeing, this collaboration at the operational level is not something that we are seeing, and it is important to foster. Relevant and use it, so it needs to be relevant, so important, and use it, and consume it by the different institutions. This one is definitely something where we really want to look at more carefully. Some of the example, I just want to mention one of the work that we have been done in the office with also our colleagues from Chima on the risk profiling, risk profiling for flood and drought. This one has been developed for 16 African countries, bringing together information on climate and socioeconomic projection, trying to synthesize in information that can be used by the decision makers. So a lot of effort has been done to produce the scientific information, but also to transform this one in information that can be used by the decision making differently. This risk information has been one of the biggest scientific work that has been done by the office in ROA, looking at the different affected, different sectors, or beside the population affected, but also agriculture, infrastructure, housing, critical infrastructure, health, education facilities, so on. Some of the lessons that we learn, I mean, this one is trivial, but I think it's important that we always remind ourselves. It's trivial, maybe it's very easy for the scientific community, but the importance of a local data set is a nice slide from our previous colleague, Tatiana Gizzoni from CHIM again. The importance of a data set, you can see here the comparison with the one global data set for Tanzania in terms of educational or school and the national data set. So it's a dramatic difference on there. But we have to be honest, also sometimes we have good results. The result below is from Angola. At Angola, it's a pretty much similar picture. I don't want to say that we always need to go with national data set, but definitely this one should be the first attempt to really promote the use of national data set in the country. This will also increase the ownership on all the results that we have behind. And the national data set is important to engage the national institution, but also the local research academia and NGO and so on. It's a very good exercise to really bring the local knowledge into the system. The second lesson learned I want to short here, to highlight here, the oversimplified complexity of risk. I mean, maybe in the scientific community, I think it's more clear, but when we go to work to the general decision-making arena, it's a lot of emphasis is done within the climate projection. And what is the climate projection are doing for flood and drought? And there is no doubt that the climate is worsening the situation and have a worse impact on our sector of flood and drought. But it's not the only drivers that we have, especially in Africa. In Africa, the socioeconomic projection, the demographic flow, the urbanization are all factors that many times are not considered, but they are changing tremendously the landscape of the risk. And that's just one of the messages I think we learned. And you can see here in this curve, those are well, I think we can talk about it to period here, which many times is difficult to know, is the losses versus the return period here. As you can see here, the effect of the social probability projection rise the curve of potential damages very much. So it's a strong influence of socioeconomic projection in long-term estimation of the impact of flood and drought. And this one we should be not neglected or oversimplified. A third reflection, and I think I need to run up, the fully probabilistic risk profiling on the use. I think I put one of the messages at the beginning, we want to focus a lot on the use. So for now, the use that I detected, we have detected is mostly on the advocacy, use of this risk information for advocacy and awareness, in several examples. On the early warning system stuff, especially, I cannot go into the technical detail because I'm not able to. But there is a point where all these outcomes from the fully probabilistic risk assessment can be integrated into the impact-based forecast. But something that definitely is important to explore is how those risk profiles can inform development. How all this risk information, risk knowledge that is generated through this risk assessment can really be used to inform the development side. And this is something that we want to invest and explore a little bit more. A second point that we go more on the early warning system component is on the African multi-hazard early warning system, has been already introduced by Hamjad and John. This one is an African Union-led initiative as a network of centers, and these centers are going to be extended. There is one center for each regional economic community in Africa, in the sub-Saharan Africa. So there's one center for East Africa, one center for West Africa, one center for Central Africa, and one center for Southern Africa. The overall idea of this center, they are physical centers with staff trained and that are using, and there's one center, I forgot my friend from Akumat, they are centered in Niamey for the entire Africa on the meteorological application. Those centers are exchanging data information on real time, and they're producing the information that can be used by the decision makers. So they are integrated those information in terms of forecast. And the forecasts are basically two. There is a bulletin that's going out every Tuesday and Friday. And it's more than 1 year. This one is coming out at the operational level. There is forecast the potential impact of flood, windstorm, and extreme precipitation over the continent, in terms also of population affected. And this one is distributed to the different organ of the African Union, to the different regional economic community, and to the National Disaster Risk Management Authority and Met Service in the countries. This is very important for two reasons. One is really a clear example of how meteorological forecasts can be transformed in early warning. And again, this one seems to be trivial, but I want to make this one as an important point. There is still work to do in transforming weather forecasts into early warning, which are qualified warning that trigger action. And this one is one good example that countries are picking up and are inspired also on this example. I think in this Continental Watch, and I apologize with African Union if I say something that is not part of your vision, but I think we share this vision, that it will be great that the representative of the global fund partners, all the people there, all the institutions are there, can see this one an opportunity where the scientific products, the services that you are doing, can then have a house over there, where there is already a system where we are trying to work more and more on the use, so in mainstreaming all this information and make sure that those one arrive to the right people in the right place. I'm not saying that this one is something we are satisfied, we are working on that, but at least this one is a system, a network of centers in Africa that's, I think, a global flood partnership institution can look at. I really encourage also the think on how remote sensing community and space agency can really help to strengthen this network in terms of information management. The disaster risk management community in Africa, in my experience, are not exploiting the use of remote sensing to, especially the disaster risk management community, to a good extent. There is a lot of being doing from the meteorological community. There's a lot of remote sensing and space data used by the meteorological community. But the disaster risk management authority, we have the feelings that the remote senses, the information are not used to the full extent that would be possible. Let me jump in the last one. We are developing with the headquarter a toolkit on using of risk information for early warning system. I'm sure there will be some more space during this day to talk about that. And here is really important. The effort we are trying to do is to see the cross-cutting elements of the risk information, how the risk information can serve impact-based forecast, monitoring and forecasting, how it can serve communication, how it can serve early warning and early action. This one is conducted through CHIMA with the collaboration with CHIMA Foundation. And this one will be one of the key assets that we want to use to implement early warning, to support the country to implement early warning for all in Africa. And definitely here there is a lot of space for collaboration in terms of tools, new tools, and so on that can be used for this rollout. Last but not least, I'm closing it, is the network center of excellence. Building on the capacity existing in Africa is a priority for all the office and for UNDRR. That was the reason why 2 years ago was launched this network center of excellence, and there is a lot of colleagues here representing those organizations. Dimtek from South Africa, RCMRD is here in Nairobi, Stellenbosch University, Vascal, DIMSUR, WFP, UNU, and many of them. There's one also very important organization for the indigenous knowledge use. So this one is an open network that UNDRR is facilitating. It's working a lot on risk knowledge generation, as those are some of the activity: advanced disaster risk research, data and knowledge generation. There is one activity on capacity development. There is one activity also engage advocacy and partnership. You can see there is a link here where any of these institutions can sign up and also become a member of the Network Center of Excellence to see how to contribute. And of course, the ultimate objective is to really bring science and technology more close to both decision maker and the participant. I just want to close again with our mango tree, because all what we are saying, I think we need to always keep in mind that that is the ultimate goal we want to do. So all the science that we are developing, we need to make sure that at the end of the day, it's going to be useful for saving life. And that's also where I think UNDRR can be helpful. And I will encourage to contact UNDRR in this office, whenever you think that there is a role that we can play. Thank you very much, and sorry for taking that.
So Marco, please stay there. So we have time for one or two questions. So if anybody has a question for Marco, this is the moment to raise your hand. Giddy.
I have a question. So I think hold on.
We got online.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got a question. I don't know if it's a question that can be answered, but I'm just going to put it there. And it relates to your tree. So when there's a flood, people should go to high ground, or what they're trying to do, right? Either climb to their roof or hopefully see a boat that is trying to rescue them, or go onto a tree. When we do these mappings and the risk assessments, right, it's very difficult to use those tools to actually help this particular situation of when the flood is happening, what do people need to take as action? What is the best action to take? And for example, if you do a risk mapping activity and you even give your map to an institution, or for me at least, it's very difficult to understand if that map is actually helping to take some action on the ground for when a flood is happening. Whether using this tool to prepare better zoning, or whether using this tool to actually help rescue people, I don't know. I'm still waiting to see that kind of success story for Earth observation, right? I'm talking about really Earth observation. So I am still trying to get to understand that challenge. You know, when we do a mapping, how do we make sure it actually can help to take some action when needed, when you don't want people climbing trees? But maybe it's the only option they have, because also when we see this situation also in Europe, it's the same. People climb on their roof, people lose everything. And we say we have so much information, but that information hardly ever reaches the right person or at the right time, etc., etc. So do you have any thoughts on that? Thank you.
I go now?
If you,
yeah.
want to reply?
No, I think that is exactly maybe the point that I want to make on the governance part, you know, and they really need to look at early warning for all, not a pillar for each pillar, but really something that we need to look at comprehensively. I did a bit of research, and it seems that the tree is saving life not only in Idai, But I find another case in Texas for a flood where a family was saved by the tree. You know, I'm sure that we can do better. No, I'm sure that people can be evacuated before or anything, no? Or as you said, we can use the flood hazard map to find where people should go and inform them when they have to go. A critical role in that is on the Disaster Risk Management Authority, where they are the one that can really try to improve the coordination mechanism for this knowledge generation from the monitoring forecasting coming from different other organizations, going to the early action and on the planning part. So that has a very important responsibility, I think. I'm not sure if all the Disaster Risk Management Authority has this one clear mandate in their scope for now. Don't take from Roberto.
It's not a question for you, Mark. I mean, talk too much, but I wanted to react on keys and then challenge to reflect even more on that. And especially on, you were saying, I mean, when I deliver, for example, like an Earth observation map, like a flood delineation, I never know if that has been used or not. And I think this is something that, I mean, we need to resolve or improve with. I can share just like a recent experience we had with the International Charter. So we've been, I mean, participating and activated through the Charter in Colombia for like a recent flood. And we had such a hard time really to connect with the final users that requested the activation to make sure that they really understood, I mean, what they had. So it took, I mean, really a lot of effort, and they were, you know, kind of passive. In the end, we could make it happen, but they didn't, at first, they didn't understand exactly how to use things, how to use, you know, and there was no, you know, direct connection with that. So this is really something we need to improve, and it required, I mean, too much effort from our side. I mean, to be honest, I mean, to really reach out and make sure that they know how to do something useful with the data sets. So I think as a community, we need, I mean, to have, I mean, this type of, you know, two-way feedback, I mean, to be more, I don't know, active and more, I mean,
this to me is a bit scary. Well, extremely well. So now imagine someone, I take myself.
So, or for other people. You are Chima. You're very well connected in a lot of places to the Charter, take African continent. You operate in a lot of places where you connect to Center of Excellences. Now you're saying it's difficult for you. So imagine for many in this community how difficult it is. It's almost impossible. So I agree with you fully, but I just don't know how to make that connection more streamlined, easier. Maybe it is up to the disaster management centers to do that, but then they need to understand what tools are available. So I mean, I have a market booth, for example, where CEOs put together a catalog of these tools globally, but even these tools, I mean, I show them, they're not great because you click on them and the information you get is very limited. And that is on us, right? We are not giving out a lot of information that is useful. So, but I still don't know how to do this, and I recognize it's a big challenge. Thank you.
Maybe this is a discussion for during the lunch or something. There's one last question.
Yes, I realize my question is actually coming from the same background, but because you presented the multi-hazard African early warning system, and then for many of us in the room, it would be interesting to know, because you see a nice map covering all of Africa, multi-hazard, so everything is done? Or is there somewhere where we can contribute? That's a question that I would really like to solve over the next day. How can we contribute with the solutions? What are the gaps that are still there to solve?
Do you have any comments, Marco?
Maybe the next few steps that you would really like to improve on?
Just one that is not done. There's a lot of space for improvement, yes. There's a lot of space of improvements and also to engage. We are really in a serious discussion with the World Meteorological Organization to engage more the Met Services, the Regional Specialized Meteorological Center for that. I think also on the flood, it's only the riverine flood for now covered. There's nothing on the flash flood. Well, we don't have the urban flood. Forest fire is something that should come. Drought, we are working with it. Landslide, there is nothing. Well, I don't know. I think I mentioned already a few, but a few of them also, although the impact part is simply, yeah, definitely need to be done.
All right.